My name is Nyssa Glück, and I started shooting in April 2018. I was inspired to become a cinematographer when I was at the Academy of Art University in San Francisco studying costume design. I was working on a film set in that capacity when I saw the cinematographer and realized that that's what I should be doing. I did start as a costume designer first, that was the intent. And I realized when I was on set that it was the wrong position for me. I found that I was constantly thinking about the light and the camera position instead. And you know, that completely took over my thought process the entire time. So I started camera assisting for friends while I was out in San Francisco, and then eventually realized that I wanted to study film and cinematography full time. So I made the decision that I wanted to learn how to shoot on film first, and Ryerson was one of the few schools that I knew of that were doing that in my research, and that of course was still affordable. So I moved up here and I came to school. I started doing that, and then while I was in school I camera assisted, I gaffed, I gripped, and I still do all those things because I think it's incredibly important to learn how to do those. But I find myself in the extremely fortunate position where I am able to eke out most of my living just by shooting right now, and I've been doing so for the last year. The unique perspective that I bring to my cinematography is the ability to see the world slightly differently than most people I've met. And that comes from having moved around and having been entrenched in so many different cultures. It gives you a different perspective and an openness to the work that you're doing. And I believe that it gives me the ability to bring a director's images, their ideas, into fruition in a better way. To really understand what a director is asking for, because it's one thing to talk about images and the idea that you have, and then it's another to actually be able to put that onto the screen. And I do think that my sensibilities enable that to happen. I see my role in drama to bring the director's ideas to fruition. Like, it's my job to be their translator. Honestly, like, the biggest struggles are just being such a new cinematographer, getting known, working on and obtaining projects that I would like to work on, and making a living doing so. I personally believe that many women stop themselves from being cinematographers because we get in our own way. I think we are constantly overthinking everything, and we learn that we have to be perfect all the time, and I think that cinematography is not about being perfect, it's about taking risks, and we aren't encouraged as women to do so. So we stop ourselves from even trying a lot of the times, and I've seen that with my classmates. I knew quite a few women who were very interested in doing cinematography, and they just always had excuses as to why they couldn't. Usually they use tech as the excuse, or that they just, you know, there was somebody else who was better suited for the job, and it's literally because they weren't willing to take a risk and to fail. And I think that's the most beautiful part about what we do, is that we try and we experiment and we discover how to make beautiful images. Since I am so new in my career, I am looking for advice still. I really want to be able to learn from people who are much wiser than I am, and to learn from their experiences. So I would like to have all the information thrown at me. The character traits that make me a good cinematographer are my stubbornness. I'm very persistent. I decided that I wanted to be a cinematographer, and I have done it, and I will continue doing so because I want this. The other part of it is that I listen, and I listen to what directors would like to create, and then I work to make that happen for them, because it's I think there is nothing more beautiful than being able to create somebody's ideas into a visual form. The greatest lessons that I've learned so far are along the lines of persevering and being open to learning, asking questions. I think those are so very important, and being not afraid of asking questions when you don't know something and asking for advice. I've been extremely lucky with the work that I've done so far. I've gotten to work on some really incredible projects. One of those, for example, was Away Home, which was one of my thesis films, and that was shown at TIFF Canada Top 10 last year. And being able to see your work on the big screen like that is such an incredible experience. And it's fortunately one that I've been able to replicate. I had another film play at Hot Docs, and that was an equally amazing experience to actually be able to see your work on a screen projected in such beautiful detail. It makes you want to cry because you're just like, oh my gosh, I helped to make this, and here it is in its truest, most beautiful form for other people to watch and to learn from, and hopefully be able to take something away from. When I first started, we didn't talk about women in cinematography, and I view that as sort of a blessing in disguise for myself, because I didn't know that women weren't cinematographers. I didn't know that it was difficult to be a cinematographer as a woman. And so I think that the industry has changed because we now talk about it, but it's also giving us opportunities that we did not have when I first started. And I feel very grateful that those opportunities are coming and being created for us. And I'm very, I feel very lucky to be starting my career now, because that means that there will be a career for myself and my peers and everyone around us to create work and to be able to keep creating work in a very positive and encouraging environment, rather than sort of from what I've been told, sort of a more negative and not so pleasant experience for a lot of women that tried before. I would like to pretty much tackle anything at this point in my career, but I really want to shoot car commercials, and I would like to shoot more dramatic children's fantasy. The person I would most like to work with is Shane Meadows, who directed Dead Man's Shoes. And that was one of those movies that I saw when I was quite a bit younger that has had a lasting influence on the way that I see film. The other person, the Canadian director that I'm extremely interested in, is Clement Virgo. I really like his work, and I would feel incredibly privileged to eventually be able to work with him. I think the advice that I would give would be the same advice that I give myself pretty much every day, is just to keep trying and to keep at it, because if you get in your own way and don't try, then you'll never know.